This video is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any health-related decision.
What if the most powerful medicine for aging muscles, bones, and even the brain was not found in a pill bottle, but in the simple act of moving the body each day? After the age of 60, movement stops being about burning calories or chasing performance and becomes something far more fundamental, a biological signal that tells the body it is still required. The human body does not decline because it grows old. It grows old faster when it is no longer asked to participate in life. Every time a senior stands up, walks, stretches, or lifts something light, millions of muscle fibers send messages to the nervous system. These signals travel upward, informing the brain that coordination, strength, and balance are still needed. In response, the brain maintains the neural circuits that control posture and movement. When movement disappears, these circuits weaken, not from age itself, but from lack of use. Science shows that muscle loss after 60 is not inevitable. It accelerates when muscles stop receiving regular stimulation. Even slow, gentle movement preserves muscle protein synthesis and prevents the rapid decline that leads to frailty. Movement also acts as a circulatory conversation. The heart responds to physical activity by pumping more efficiently, improving blood flow to tissues that often suffer from reduced oxygen with age. Joints, which do not have their own blood supply, rely on motion to absorb nutrients and remove waste. Without movement, joints stiffen not because they are worn out, but because they are underfed. The act of bending, stepping, and reaching delivers nourishment deep into the body, keeping connective tissues resilient and responsive. Balance, one of the greatest concerns in later life, is deeply tied to daily movement. Inside the inner ear and throughout the muscles and joints are sensor receptors that constantly report position and motion to the brain. These systems degrade when they are not challenged. Regular movement sharpens these signals, reducing the risk of falls not through strength alone, but through improved communication between body and brain. In this way, movement becomes a form of neurological training, quietly protecting independence. Beyond mechanics, movement shapes metabolism. Physical activity improves how cells respond to insulin, helping regulate blood sugar and reduce chronic inflammation. These effects occur even without strenuous exercise. A walk after meals, light resistance work, or stretching in the morning gently guides the body back toward metabolic balance. The body does not require intensity to adapt, it requires consistency. Perhaps most profoundly, movement influences how seniors feel inside their own bodies. Motion stimulates the release of chemicals that elevate mood, reduce pain perception, and calm the nervous system. It reminds the individual that their body is not fragile, but capable. Each small movement reinforces trust between the mind and the body, replacing fear with familiarity. In this sense, daily movement is not just physical maintenance, but a quiet affirmation of presence, agency, and continued participation in the unfolding process of life. Eating after the age of 60 is no longer about filling the stomach, but about communicating stability to the body. With time, the digestive system becomes more deliberate. Enzymes are released more slowly, stomach emptying takes longer, and the gut becomes more sensitive to extremes. When meals arrive irregularly or in excess, the body interprets this as uncertainty, responding with blood sugar swings, fatigue, and inflammation. When meals arrive with rhythm and intention, the body relaxes into balance. Regular eating times create a biological predictability that aging systems rely on. Blood sugar regulation becomes less flexible with age, which means large gaps between meals or sudden surges of refined carbohydrates place unnecessary strain on the pancreas. Consistent meals help insulin work more efficiently, allowing glucose to enter cells without lingering in the bloodstream. This stability protects blood vessels, preserves energy levels, and reduces the subtle metabolic stress that accumulates quietly over years. Protein takes on a deeper importance later in life. Muscles become less responsive to small protein signals, a phenomenon known as anabolic resistance. This does not mean the body cannot build or maintain muscle, but that it requires clearer nutritional cues. Distributing adequate protein evenly across meals provides those signals, supporting muscle repair, immune strength, and recovery from daily activity. Food becomes not fuel for speed, but material for maintenance and repair. Fiber, often overlooked, plays a quiet but powerful role. As digestion slows, Fiber supports gut motility and feeds beneficial bacteria that influence immunity, inflammation, and even mood. A healthy gut sends reassuring messages to the brain through neural and chemical pathways, reducing stress responses and supporting cognitive health. Eating vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole grains is not about rules, but about sustaining this internal ecosystem that grows more influential with age. Eating with intention also means eating with attention. Slower meals allow satiety signals to rise naturally, preventing overeating without conscious restriction. Chewing thoroughly supports digestion and nutrient absorption, reducing discomfort and improving mineral uptake. The body is less forgiving of rushed eating later in life, not as punishment, but as a reminder that it now values care over speed. Hydration, closely tied to nutrition, becomes less instinctive with age. Thirst signals dull, while the consequences of dehydration grow stronger. Regular fluid intake supports circulation, kidney function, and cognitive clarity. When hydration is paired with meals and spread evenly throughout the day, it becomes a gentle habit rather than a reactive one. Perhaps the most meaningful shift is moving away from dietary rigidity. Strict restriction can stress aging systems more than moderate indulgence. The body benefits from nourishment that is adequate for mere and enjoyable. Pleasure in eating stimulates digestive secretions and reinforces consistency. Food, when chosen wisely and eaten calmly, becomes a daily reassurance to the body that resources are available, rhythms are stable, and survival does not require alarm. In this way, eating well after 60 is not about controlling the body, but about cooperating with it. Sleep after the age of 60 is often misunderstood as a passive state, when in reality it is one of the most active biological processes the body performs. When the lights go out and the mind softens, an intricate sequence of repair begins. Cells shift priorities, energy is redirected inward, and systems that protect long-term health finally receive uninterrupted attention. When sleep becomes fragmented or shortened, this essential work is delayed, not replaced. The aging brain depends on sleep to maintain clarity. During deep sleep, fluid pathways open within the brain, allowing metabolic waste to be cleared away. These waste products, when allowed to accumulate, interfere with memory, attention, and emotional regulation. Poor sleep does simply cause tiredness the next day, it quietly alters brain chemistry, making concentration harder and reaction slower. Over time, consistent sleep disruption accelerates cognitive decline, not because neurons are lost overnight, but because they are deprived of routine maintenance. The immune system also relies heavily on sleep. Immune cells use this time to recalibrate their responses, learning what to attack and what to ignore. Without sufficient sleep, inflammation rises and the body becomes more vulnerable to infection and chronic disease. After 60, when immune efficiency naturally declines, sleep becomes a primary defense mechanism rather than a luxury. A single night of poor sleep can elevate stress hormones, but repeated nights reshape immune behavior in lasting ways. Sleep is deeply intertwined with hormonal balance. Growth hormone, which supports tissue repair and muscle maintenance, is released primarily during deep sleep. Melatonin, the hormone that governs sleep timing, also acts as a powerful antioxidant, protecting cells from oxidative stress. As melatonin production declines with age, protecting sleep routines becomes essential. Consistent bedtimes, exposure to natural daylight, and calm evening environments help synchronize internal clocks that no longer reset easily on their own. Pain perception changes with sleep quality. When sleep is insufficient, the nervous system becomes more sensitive, amplifying discomfort from joints, muscles, and old injuries. This creates a cycle where pain disrupts sleep and poor sleep intensifies pain. Protecting sleep helps break this loop by calming the nervous system and restoring normal pain thresholds. In this sense, sleep functions as a natural analgesic, working quietly without side effects. Emotional health is also shaped during the night. Sleep allows the brain to process emotional experiences, reducing their intensity and placing them into context. Without this process, anxiety and irritability increase, making daily challenges feel heavier than they are. Seniors often attribute mood changes to aging itself, when in reality disrupted sleep is frequently the hidden cause. Protecting sleep after 60 is not about forcing long hours in bed, but about creating conditions for depth and continuity. Gentle evening routines, reduced exposure to artificial light, and a sense of safety signal the nervous system to shift from alertness to repair. Sleep is not the absence of wakefulness, but a state of intelligent restoration where the body prepares itself to meet the next day with resilience rather than exhaustion. The human brain does not age simply by the passing of years, it ages by how often it is invited to engage with the world. After 60, the brain remains remarkably adaptable, capable of forming new connections and strengthening old ones, provided it is given the right balance of challenge and calm. Mental engagement without emotional overload becomes a form of nourishment, shaping not only cognition but overall physical health. When the brain encounters novelty, even in small forms, neurons communicate more actively. Learning a new skill, reading unfamiliar material, or solving everyday problems stimulates networks responsible for memory, attention, and decision-making. These activities encourage neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself. Contrary to common belief, this capacity does not disappear with age. It becomes more selective. The brain responds best to tasks that are meaningful rather than overwhelming, familiar yet slightly demanding. Stress, however, interferes with this process. Chronic emotional strain releases cortisol, a hormone designed for short-term survival. When cortisol remains elevated, it disrupts memory formation, weakens immune function, and damages blood vessels. Seniors are particularly sensitive to prolonged stress because recovery systems slow with age. Mental engagement must therefore be paired with emotional regulation. Curiosity fuels growth, while calm protects the terrain in which that growth occurs. Emotional calm is not achieved by avoiding thought, but by guiding it. Practices such as reflection, controlled breathing, or quiet attention to the present moment activate the parasympathetic nervous system, signaling safety to the body. This state allows the brain to process information efficiently rather than defensively. When the nervous system is calm, learning becomes easier, memory improves, and reactions soften. The brain no longer operates in survival mode but in integration mode. Social cognition plays a subtle role here as well. Meaningful conversation challenges the brain to listen, interpret, and respond while regulating emotion. These interactions activate multiple brain regions simultaneously, strengthening communication pathways. Isolation, by contrast, deprives the brain of this stimulation and increases stress-related signaling. The mind, like the body, deteriorates faster in silence than in engagement. Mental also influences physical health through behavioral pathways. A stimulated, emotionally balanced brain makes better decisions about movement, nutrition, and sleep. It is more resilient in the face of discomfort and less likely to fall into patterns of avoidance or fear. Cognitive vitality supports autonomy, and autonomy reinforces psychological well-being. Perhaps the most important element is intention. When seniors approach mental activity as exploration rather than obligation, the brain responds with openness rather than resistance. There is no need to chase complexity for its own sake. Even simple tasks, when performed attentively, strengthen neural circuits. The goal is not to preserve youth, but to preserve clarity. In this balance between stimulation and serenity, the brain finds its optimal environment. Thought becomes fluid rather than rigid, emotions become informative rather than overwhelming, and mental life remains active without becoming exhausting. This harmony supports not only memory and focus, but the deeper sense of being mentally present in one's own life, awake to experience without being burdened by it. Human connection is often spoken of as an emotional need, but after 60 it reveals itself as a biological requirement. The body responds to social contact in ways that are measurable, immediate, and protective. A brief conversation, a shared laugh, or even the presence of another person can alter heart rate, blood pressure, and stress hormone levels. Isolation, on the other hand, activates the same physiological pathways as danger, quietly placing the body into a state of chronic alert. When seniors engage socially, the brain releases chemicals such as oxytocin and dopamine that promote trust, calm, and motivation. These chemicals do more than improve mood. They reduce inflammation, support immune function, and stabilize cardiovascular activity. Oxytocin in particular dampens the stress response, lowering cortisol levels that otherwise dampen vessels and accelerate aging. In this way, connection acts as an internal regulator, restoring balance across multiple systems at once. The heart is especially sensitive to social signals. Studies consistently show that socially connected individuals maintain healthier heart rhythms and lower resting blood pressure. The reason is not simply reduced loneliness, but improved autonomic nervous system balance. Interaction shifts the body away from constant vigilance and toward a state of safety. When the heart senses safety, it works more efficiently, conserving energy rather than bracing for threat. The immune system also listens closely to social input. Loneliness has been linked to altered immune gene expression, favoring inflammation over defense. Regular social contact reverses this pattern, supporting the body's ability to fight infection while limiting unnecessary inflammatory responses. After 60, when immune resilience naturally declines, even small doses of social engagement can produce meaningful physiological effects. Cognitive health is deeply influenced by connection as well. Conversation challenges memory, language, emotional interpretation, and attention simultaneously. These complex demands keep neural networks active and integrated. Social interaction also provides emotional feedback, helping regulate mood and perspective. Without this feedback, negative thought patterns tend to amplify, increasing anxiety and depressive symptoms that further impair cognitive function. Connection does not require constant company or large social circles. The body responds to quality rather than quantity. A trusted relationship, regular check-ins, or participation in shared activities is enough to activate these protective mechanisms. Even brief encounters can interrupt the physiological cascade of isolation, reminding the nervous system that support exists. There is also a behavioral dimension. Socially connected seniors are more likely to stay physically active, eat regularly, and maintain routines. Connection reinforces structure, and structure supports health. When someone expects to see or hear from us, the body subtly prepares to show up. This anticipation itself becomes a stabilizing force. Perhaps most importantly, connection affirms meaning. The aging body is sensitive not only to physical inputs, but to purpose. Feeling seen and valued reduces existential stress, a form of strain that quietly influences health behaviors and physiological responses. When seniors experience connection, the body interprets life as ongoing and relevant. In this way, social interaction is not an optional comfort, but a form of daily maintenance. It regulates stress, protects organs, sharpens the mind, and anchors emotional well-being. Connection keeps the body oriented toward life rather than withdrawal, reminding it through lived experience that it is still part of something larger, still engaged, still needed.